music, just hit us up. We got so much that we can discuss. Come to the booth and turn up with us. Meta News be the source you
Hello,
can
everyone.
trust.
Welcome
DJ,
to
rap, sing, or play
All-Star
guitar.
Studios.
If you got a
I'm
story
your host,
to tell
Universe
us, then
Dragon,
here we are.
and
Every
today
Tuesday
with
on
me
point.
we
And that's so
have
far, gotta look into
El
yourself to see
Blanco,
also.
the
What it
one
do?
and
What it do?
only. How are we doing tonight, Blanco?
I'm great. Now that you had me on the show, I haven't been on your show before. This is my first time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, well, we are happy to have you here. I know you're a busy man, Blanco. And again, 100%. You've done a lot in this space. Your name rings bells the second someone says it. So you are a high value person in this community, and of course, the Meta News business anchor. You know what I'm saying? You have given a lot of knowledge in this space, and everything that you've done. So first off, I do want to start before we start touching on everything else. First off, what got you here? How did you get into this space, Blanco?
I had my cousin Don Illuminati, right? He was wanting me to get on, and I used the Oculus because he started out with the boxing game, and I used to box, so he tried to use that to influence me, right? So I thought it was cool when he brought it over to the house, and I looked at it, but so I purchased the Oculus, but I put it away. It was almost a year before I pulled it out again. So when I did get on it, first thing I saw was the Infiniverse, right? Because someone was talking about, well, matter of fact, he took me there. They was talking about purchasing property. So me and him went and got about 70 some properties a piece because we wanted to play the digital real estate game and wait on everybody to show up so we can start unloading them for 10 times whatever we got them for. And I spent time over there until someone said, hey, come over to Horizon World. It's nice over there. They be really kicking it. And so it took me a while before I even did that, and came over here and I just saw people interacting for real. And I'm looking at these avatars and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And so that's how I ended up over here.
All right, nice. I mean, again, I know that everyone's journey is not the same, but it's always for something else. It always typically is you're getting this to play a game, and typically that's what it was. Everyone really came in to play games, but then they realized there was a social aspect in the community here, in different apps, but they realized there was a community here to socialize. So it's really awesome that it led you to here. Now, music is a form of art, but poetry is as well. And when it comes to poetry, you are very, 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 very well known for the poetry that you do in this space. And how the amount that you're able to deliver, your delivery of that poetry, and how it moves and how it resonates with the community. So how did that become about? Like when did you start doing poetry in this space?
In this space?
Mm-hmm.
One night, Isha had Isha Too Shy with Pure Brands, Pure Designs. She had a grand opening at Pure Seduction, and Penn was there. And after the whole event was over, we were just hanging out, me, Penn, her, Q, and a couple of people, and they decided they want us to do some poetry. You know what I'm saying? So we started doing poetry. And I don't think too many people knew I did poetry. You know what I mean? We started doing poetry, and all of a sudden, Penn came up. He wanted to do poetry. I'm going, okay, Penn, he the freestyle dude. He the top dog in here in freestyle. Okay, cool. So did another poem. Well, he came up again. Okay, so he came right back. He came up again. So so we just went until he ran out of ammo, right? Because this is what I do. I do poetry. I don't freestyle. I can freestyle, but I don't freestyle because it's kind of like I'm kind of past freestyle because when you're freestyling, you're trying to connect words, and sometimes you're not really going to maintain a concept because you're trying to connect. It's all about being clever for real. It's a clever take, what you can say that's unique, what someone haven't heard. And pretty much once I stay in a freestyle session long enough and hear Cat go 2 or 3 times, I done heard everything he's gonna come with. I done heard his transitional ones. I done heard all his sweet stuff. You know what I mean? So freestyle I got away from. Poetry, on the other hand, you get to really solve some issues. You can solve some problems. You can start with a topic, and you can go from beginning of what you would call the I would say the catalyst of what something is, and whether it's a issue, a negative issue, whatever. You start with a catalyst. You can go through that catalyst and show all the development within and what it produces and what it doesn't produce, and you can come out with a conclusion. You can actually try to change things with your poetry. A lot of people use it for to be therapeutic. So when I first started, I was like everybody else, really writing about my life. So when I read a whole lot of poems that people hear, and I announce them, I say, "Yo, this way back in 2003. This is 2006. This is 2008." And really, that was me
Yeah.
spilling my guts about the world and life, right? So poetry is a way, because it's protected by the First Amendment, where you can still deliver things and you can get some real things said, some real things that in certain venues it's not public policy to say or touch upon or whatever. And at the same time, because it's an art form, you really can speak your mind and get at folks without them having to say directly that, "Hey, you said this," you know what I'm saying? So that's
Yeah.
what poetry do for me.
Yeah. And that is really nice because and to your point, there's a lot that can be said when you are using these forms of art. And I have loved poetry since I was young. You know what I mean? And I've got to experience your poetry many times. And I've always been blown away, always been amazed, and I've always been pleased walking away from, a night of poetry when you're there among a lot of the other poets in this space. But especially you've always stood out when it comes to the poetry that you do, 100%. So, what when it comes to poetry, now before this space, how long have you been doing poetry just in general? Like how long have you been in poetry?
Okay, as a kid, okay, you're rapping, but like I said, when they started talking about formally doing poetry, I got invited to rock with a group called the Griot Poets, because everything was back in the day was consciousness, Black consciousness, and everything, Zulu Nation, all these movements, whatever. So Griot was like an African historian, and he had to remember all the history, and he could not get it wrong or he would lose his life. Right, a griot, Griot. So we was part of the Griot Poets, and because they had that type of stature, the way they move with it, you know what I'm saying. So it put me in a position to where I couldn't be just saying poetry to sound sexy or trying to impress somebody. I really had to be saying something, right?
Mm,
So that's why most time when people hear my poetry in here and they come up to me, they don't just say they like it, you know what I'm saying? They really felt it, you know what I mean?
yeah,
They really felt it because
100%.
I'm trying to say something. I'm trying to say something that's going to touch you because you either witnessed this or you experienced this, whether you're in denial of it or whether you don't want to address it or whether you want to, whatever the case may be. I'm saying things that most people are. I don't say most people. I'm gonna say some poets not gonna come into the venue and say, because
Yeah,
they're trying to win the crowd. They want to look good and sound good. Sometimes I'm gonna come in there and light your ass up, and you can be
yeah,
like, "I don't like him tonight." It's gonna keep
yeah.
it
I
100.
mean, and that's what poetry does. I feel like it pulls back the layers piece by piece. When you do have good poetry and when you have something that is a feeling more than just you're entertained by it's touching deeper than the ears itself. um you know and that's what I love about poetry, and it can't the same thing can be said to music when it is done in a certain form. Being able to do that, to be able to have that ability to do that in your craft, that's a talent. That's 100% a talent. So and again, you've done a lot, and I know you've been doing poetry for a long time. So what my question is, what motivates you? What motivates you to continue doing what you do inside of this space? What keeps you going? What keeps you doing just what you do?
Um, I'm a Gemini. Got two sides, right? You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Happy, sad, good, bad, positive, negative. So we got a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot in here to talk about. It's a lot of things I observe. A lot of things people say, "Oh, you can't judge." I'm like, yo, people judging every day. You getting judged every day by somebody for something,
exactly.
and we're doing the same thing. You know what I mean? So, sometimes you have to really talk about some things, and I take notes. I've been so busy. I got hundreds of notes on things that's taking place in Horizon conceptually, or seeing things that have been personal things by people, or things that just shows who's operating off false pretense, You know, they got these thing about, you know, Horizon love to talk about catfishing and all that kind of stuff. You know, I don't like to get into that. But I still do take notes on everything because I literally could write a poem about this whole experience from day one to now. You know, I could write a 12-minute poem. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
But that's not it. So what motivates me really is just the experiences in life that sometimes you can't talk about because some people are not willing to talk about if it's too painful for them or if they're in
Yeah.
denial of it, right? So
Yeah.
you got to put it in poetic form. You got to get on the stage and spit it, and then they got to sit there quietly and you know and find some resolve within. But it's gonna get covered in the poem.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I mean, that level and to that, it's like you'll never run out of fuel because you're going to keep living and experiencing life. So it's like the
Definitely.
motivation will always be there. It's an infinite motivation because you're writing about experiences and you're going to continue to experience as long as you're living. So you'll always
Mhm.
have fuel and motivation. And I love that. You know what I mean? Like, and that can be applied to any art form, you know, poetry, art itself, whether you're creating something, building something, music, you can put that, you know, like you can apply that to anything, especially when you're talking about and coming from an experience level. You'll always have, you know, you'll always be motivated. You'll never run out of that fuel because you'll always have a full tank because you're always living, you're always experiencing. Um, I think that's amazing. What would you tell someone who's coming in this space right now, trying to get involved in the, you know, into what you're doing, you know, into trying to get involved in that form of art, poetry and other things like that? What would you tell somebody trying to get in this space?
Since somebody be doing business in here, they can come to my lecture hall and get a membership, and I can really guide them through every step they need. But whatever that step may be, they need to first and foremost understand that an art form is an art form. You have to do it because you either love it or it comes to you naturally. And if you plan on doing something, um, you need to be the standard. And if you're not the standard, you can't get discouraged. You got to study the standard. You got to understand the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, he got up there and he did this, and the crowd responded like this. But then she got up here and she did that, and they responded like that. You know, a person who's really observative, right? They're gonna try to take both elements of what they did and try to find a way to mold themselves with it. So basically, you need to make keen observations, find out where your niche is at, find out how you can maximize on that niche. But at the same time, remember it's an art form. You have to properly network. You have to maintain your name. Your name has to be established as a brand to be recognizable, to be looked forward to seeing, and to hear pop up in different areas. So being new, you gotta, you got to put your foot on the ground. You gotta hustle around here starting out to showcase your talent. To you may even have to go to the studios where they freestyling at, you know what I'm saying? And you may have to get in there and say, hey, I might not freestyle, but I got a poem for you. Let me tell you, and get people knowing who you are and what you are. But most importantly, if you know business and you know how to network, you can, you can cross a whole lot. You can go past, skip the line on a lot of things and negotiate some
100%.
things to put you in front of everything and everybody. So depending on how
Man,
yeah.
Blanco, I feel like that's very valuable information, and you know, having people start off and having that observation in the beginning, being able to look at things like that. I feel like that is a huge key that a lot of people need, you know, need to know and use when they first get to this space. So if you're listening, just like your Blanco say, you know, observe, you know, get in and in the beginning, you will have to grind it out. You will have to hustle in order to get from point A to point B. So continue doing what you got to do because you know, I know that there's Blanco. Anybody will tell you when you get in this space, it takes time to get your name out there. But once it's out there, it's out there. We have a large community here, and a very supportive community. You know, as long as you're doing all the right things. But Blanco, how can everyone find you? Is what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Okay, well, I'm not on Instagram, right? So all you gotta do is to get at me. If you're on Instagram, I work directly with Isha Tushai with her brand. You see Blanco Brands and Pure Designs. We work together. So since she's on Instagram, she has a big presence on Instagram. You can just always contact Isha Too Shy on Instagram. That's one thing. But I do have a Snapchat. I got that specifically because I didn't want to mess with it. Instagram. It's not really popular like Instagram, but it's El Blanco AF. So if you follow that on Snapchat, that's me, El Blanco AF. No periods, no dots, no nothing. El Blanco AF. And the different Blancos I have, the 37669 at the end, and you have the AF. These are the two accounts that I use. Blanco, El Blanco AF. And I would suggest that you follow El Blanco Body, which is L.Blanco.Bottie. That's the DJ. So that's my DJ. Because I try to specialize in playing different music than everybody else, but more or less for intimacy, romance, and just sitting back and create an environment for people who want to just be hugged up, and, really not trying to mac, but just some real genuine intellectual, real spiritual get-togethers. So I typically will put that body in different places. And I'm at Meta News, and so I have a platform. Miss Rocks, she took a stab at me, put me in front of you for the interview. You gave me a chance. That put me in front of everybody. So that business, he business. Then they start money for business. I do that business segment. So through the business segment, you can go on the YouTube channel, and you can go to our YouTube channel at Meta News for Horizon Worlds VR. I have a lot of segments up there dealing with business, not just with public aspect of business, but even the private side. I even introduced the community to the private side. So and then also, if you really want to get at me privately, and you really need to maybe retain me for some services, or find out in the future how you can get at me in the future, my email is lblancobrands@gmail.com. And the phone number, and if you're a sister trying to call me and holler, don't do it, because I'm just not gonna respond to that. But the number is 773-980-9838. It's a business number, so it's gonna give you a recording, let me know who's calling. So but yeah, those are the ways you can reach me, and get at me.
All right, nice. Well, Blanco, again, we are 100% happy that we were able to, I know you're a busy man, and happy to get you here tonight, to share your knowledge and everything with everyone. Again, thank you so much for joining. And everyone, thank you again for tuning in every episode with us. We got so much more to come.
Okay. Once again, I appreciate I appreciate Dragon and Rocks for having me here on the All-Star Show. And this is a segment of Meta News. I am on the Meta News team as well with the business segment. But tonight, I'm gonna do this piece, this poem, and I'm gonna demonstrate what separates me from most of the poets in Horizons, and why I consider myself, me. Don't get it twisted. That's the best poet in Horizon right now, standing. You know what I'm saying? The last competition I had was 300 points under me, so that's what it was. So anyway, this poem right here is called Echoes. It's not my top poem. It's not the one they request all the time, because I'm not trying to, come up here and like, okay, here we go again. I want y'all to understand the complexity of this poem. When I do this poem has a lot of metaphors in it, and it has a lot of cliches in it. But watch how I go from the beginning to the end, and I maintain the topic, and you're going to get an answer to a question, or a solution to a problem, or you're going to have something to really meditate on when it's all said and done. Now, this poem is called Echoes. The name of this poem is Echoes, and it's about the failures of communication in relationships. That's why it's called Echoes. Echoes. Echoes, 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 echoes. Echoes. You see, they bounce off the wall like reverb, but they are words trapped in synthesized loops that plays back like 8 tracks until someone finally locates that eject button. Because sometimes it seems that these words are spoken for nothing. And it's like a constant reoccurrence for open discussion. Like nothing has ever been said in the first place. But see, these echoes, they're like carbon copies of voices losing velocity and losing sound and losing ground until another surface is found for its reflection, its new projection. Should no one receive the message that was intended for its recipient. So it's just returned back to its sender without confirmation and void of any consideration for its mission or nature. And no matter how minor or major, these echoes don't elevate, they just escalate in their duration until the final termination. And that's whether it's today, tomorrow night, next week, or now as we speak, whether it's the bottom of the line or it's the summit, the peak of that same reoccurring breach, or maybe even significant acknowledgement that could have abolished the frolic that tiptoed. But we know that echoes can cause resentment, forcing discontentment through windows of opportunity that could have preserved the unity. And it seems that each arrival brings revival to predisposed and reminiscent echoes from the past, coming in before that last one that just blew in, creating more whirlwinds that swirls and swirls with echoes and echoes. And see, these echoes seem to echo as if they're never going to stop. Like irritation upon your eardrums, overloaded and about to pop. But see, these echoes are indicative, and in times they're predicted, but they're specifically pertinent to one's existence. So time is the only element that we can insist to see that these echoes cease in origin and desist to exist. And therefore, echoes should only sound like this.
You just got a taste of what Blanco can do and what he does in this space. Again, follow him on all the platforms that he just told you about. You want to hear any more, you want to reach out to him, you want him to do poetry or anything like that, you reach out to Blanco. He does an amazing job. And again, thank you so much again for tuning in every week with us here at All Star Studios. Can't wait to see you again. Are you an All Star? We'll catch you next time.